So this last portion of the conference here is the resilience through culture. And we have, I see we have Natalie Sapir joining us here. She's a fantastic artist through her music, her music writing, her playwriting. She's going to be featuring a play, and I apologize, I don't have it in front of me. The name of the play that's going.
Finding Holistic Voices.
Yes, Finding Holistic Voices, and that is going to launch in March, so midwinter, if you will. But she is from Tobic First Nation, and she's joined by, of course, Elder Imelda Purley. And as I was mentioning earlier today, Natalie Sapir is the lead behind tonight's Culture Night for the Can-Do delegates, and we certainly extend an invitation to you folks to join us at the Playhouse for the doors open at 6. The performance will be at 6:45. So I want to welcome you here and the Resilience to Culture with Imelda and Natalie.
I just wanted you to pay attention to the logo that you have above there. That's actually Natalie's work. There's a lot of Natalie's work. Last night when I gave one of her prints, all the prints that have been gifted to our panelists have been from her art, and each one got something different, which is amazing. So last night when Senator Christmas was here, and I said, you probably already have this because I know your wife Duze Christmas is also a famous artist. And he goes, I'm taking this one to Ottawa. And so, but Samagwanija Jock, we've been talking about resilience. And one of the things that Natalie has committed to is finding that spirit, that ancestral spirit within her, so that she can show off what our ancestors have carried and known all along. And so that's what she demonstrates through her work, both through voice, but also through, the colors that she uses. And her Smagwanija Jock has really, really blossomed. It's water spirit, and I think you're going to recognize water spirit in just the tone of her voice, but also just in her work that you're going to see. She does have a website. She's also artist in residence at Theatre New Brunswick here, and definitely has. She's working in community. She does workshops, healing with art. Her and I have worked together at the Beaverbrook Art Gallery to do a what we call Young Ancestors. And Young Ancestors is a program that supports and encouraging young artists to in the community to develop their artwork. So I tell the story and Natalie guides them into how to show that story either on canvas, on paper, on making something, and so I'm not sure when. I think we have another year left with that project.
I think it'll continue.
Yeah, I think it will continue because it's been amazing to just see it develop, in each of our communities. So all 15 First Nations were commissioned to produce work from our youth, concentrating on their culture based from the stories that we share. So. You don't want to hear from me. Once you hear from her, you're going to say, why didn't Imelda get her in there earlier? So I'm going to let you go, Doris. Happy to have you here, Kazalmo. And just make me proud. Yeah, you already do.
Nildalee was Samagwanija Jock. The water spirit. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Any opportunity to share my journey, I try to jump on. Can you guys hear me well? I know sometimes I tone down a little bit. So when Dave asked me to share some songs, and when he told me about resilience, and I was very excited because this is a very new way of me expressing openly to the public, to people. And I told Imelda, like, I don't know a lot of traditional songs. I'm still learning. And I'm still learning the stories that lie within the traditional songs. So today, mostly, I'm going to be sharing you some of my songs that I've created, and stories within that, what lies within those songs. So I won't go on to my background. Melvin did an amazing job, but I've always been a storyteller since I was a child. I never realized that I was a storyteller as a child in many different ways until recently. I painted for the past 14 years. I love painting. I'll always be a painter. But paintings made me realize that they were just a sketch in a way, like just the beginning. A reminder for me to always go back to those paintings, a reminder of what lies within that story that I painted, a reminder to myself to never forget where I come from and never forget the stories that lie within the land and in the water and in the sky. And I realized that I needed to express louder than a painting can speak. I needed that. We needed that. We needed to hear our stories louder than a painting can speak. Our ancestors, I felt that's what my ancestors were telling me, because I continually felt the rumble in the ground and in the water and in the sky, and ask me, hear me, I hear me. And I say, I hear you. One of the first songs I got really drawn to was a song called The Longest Walk. And that's what I'm going to start with, because I'm going to start with that journey of me sharing. This was the first song that I felt confident in sharing, you know? When I heard it, Diamond Nicholas taught me this song. And one thing I liked about Diamond, you know, everyone has some rules they follow. You don't see women around a big drum. Diamond led us by the big drum. And I always admired that, because he just seen that we wanted to sing, we wanted to touch a drum. Not too many people had the hand drums when I was younger. It was the large drum. And Diamond would bring the kids, and they would teach us these songs. You know, I learned Yue Haya, Ali Bajigwat, all these songs, they're all great. But it was The Longest Walk that really hit me. It just, it went right inside me. And that's what I'm going to start with, that song right now. Because it was something just woke up, and it allowed me to sing as high as I wanted to. It allowed me just to, I felt like my feet were in the water, and I'm just like lifting out like a fish. That's what it made me feel like. Because I remember when I would hear songs, even when I would sing slow songs that were like on the radio and stuff, and I just wanted to sing. And even around the drum, I just wanted to sing real loud. It's Natalie, you're singing too loud. You're singing too loud. Calm down. And so I was, you know what? That made me stop singing. It made me stop singing. For a long time, I didn't sing because I felt my voice was too loud. Until I heard Maggie Paul. When I heard Maggie Paul, she reminded me of my song and how important my song was. She heard the songs, how I heard the songs, through the trees, through the skies. She would just, and she reminded me to sing my song. So gradually I would do that. And you know, I did shows where, and paintings where, you know, painting for me was a way of healing, but you know, I don't use references other than what I see around me. So there are some stories that I was still struggling with in my life that I needed to let go, and the only language I knew was how to paint. So I didn't have a picture other than memory, experience, and feeling. The way to get there was through chant. And I found myself in my studio alone, moving into chant just so I can find what those pictures look like and what those colors look like and what that feeling felt like for me. And I remember being a child in the back of my mother's house in the woods and listening to the trees the way I used to. And so I was going through, like I said, a lot of struggles in my life. And I found myself praying to the trees. And they were listening. They all started like hovering. Not even just the trees. Like everything just started hovering around me. And they said, "Dudes, tell me what you feel like. Tell me what you feel." I said, I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm tired of feeling this way. And so this was my first chant that I started singing to myself. It took me back to, I realized I was praying. Through chant, I was praying. And that was helping me get through what was hard for me to talk about. And I remember I was in a sweat lodge where a blossom was in, and she asked us for me to sing a song. And I said, well, I have a song that I'd like to share with you. I was nervous. Maybe my voice is going to be too loud. But I felt comfortable in that sweat lodge. I felt comfortable beside my teacher, and I sang it. And then she kept on asking me to sing it. And that made me feel as though my song was sacred, that my song had healing too, and it gave me confidence to continue to share my song. It was that moment that I had. So in this song that I'm going to share with you, which is the first song that I've created, that I started sharing openly, and what you're going to feel is me being quiet and being shy about talking about what bothers me, and then you'll hear those higher voices, no, tell me more. And as I get higher, the ancestors are saying, no, tell me what you really feel. And, you know, the drum, for me, is heartbeat. And so many rhythms you hear through that drum. And I am what they would say an improv musician. I create sounds with what is written inside me. And usually the song always sounds different. I'm becoming more confident in me expressing that way because it makes me feel good, and it's expressing the truth of what I feel. It's expressing that my presence with you. them telling me I'm going to be okay. And sometimes we feel we don't know who to talk to. We can't find the words to describe what we feel. Sometimes one word can't even give it enough justice of what you feel like. And that's the difference between the English language and the Costa Rican language too. You know, that one word is not enough. I can't say just words. I have to give you everything that's inside me right now. And that's what I was singing about. They're telling me, tell me more, tell me more. It's okay, Deuce, it's okay, Deuce, tell me more. And I always feel better after that, you know. It always centers me, gives me strength to keep doing what I'm doing. Since singing and creating in this way has brought so much happiness in my life, like fulfillment, you know, became self-healing, my medicine. Because like I said, there's so much that's going on, and I don't know how to deal with all the things that's going on sometimes. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know, but let me feel it. Let me honor those emotions, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's love. I will honor it, and I won't be, you know, I won't be apologetic for those feelings. But with music, it allows me to let it out, and then most of the songs are prayer songs. That's the best way to describe them. All the songs I've written do not have the language in them. And they're waiting for the language. I hear the language. I hear them. I hear what they're telling me. And the more I created music and you know, and wanting to learn our language is, you know, I try my best to include the language in what I do, the stories and stuff, and the connection. And I know it's going to take a long time, but I'm excited about that journey. I don't find it as, oh, it's going to take too long. I'll go as far as I can go, doing the best that I can with learning. But that's how much we want it. You know, many of us want to learn the language. Sagate is one of my teachers, Gwen Bear, and she wrote a really beautiful song, the Willistic song, and you may have heard it today or this week. Have you?
I promised them that other version.
I wish, you know, when I sing with a few of my friends, Angie and Judy Aquin, and we do the Woolstick song, and it's really, when I come together with these girls, it's amazing because we learn from one another. They teach me the songs and the stories, but they weren't able to be here today. But I really wanted to share that song. And I haven't learned how to really feel confident enough to sing it in the language. I have a hard time with memory. I have a hard time with focus sometimes. With, you know, it's hard for me to sit in a classroom for 3 hours. It really is. People would call me ADHD or whatever. You know what? That's just me. I accept that. I am not going to labelize myself. You know, I will move away from a space if I have to move away to a space. I deserve that. I deserve to not, you know, to move away from that. But so many times we feel as though we have to. No, that's just the way I am. So with the Woolstick song, with memory has always been hard. That's why I have a hard time memorizing songs with the language. It's hard. It's hard for me. It's like math. Ugh. That's why I'm an artist. But it's beautiful, and I want it. So I'll try the best that I can. So I'm going to show you. I'm gonna make myself vulnerable here, and show you how much that our people need our language. I'm going to show you how much that we really, really need to practice this way, learn these teachings, learn our history, learn about our past and what people have fought for us, everything, and how much we want, and how much it can be overwhelming, and how much we are colonized, and how much, we're so scared because we feel we're not Indian enough, because we don't have moccasins, we don't speak the language, we don't do ceremonies. And that keeps us away. Those fears keep us away from going into those circles, going into those teachings, and trying. So I'm going to sing you the Woolistic song. And I want you to think of me as a child. I am a child still. But I want you to look at me as a child like I was along the big drum with a bunch of young children learning a song. Because I will say the language incorrectly. It will maybe, but I'm trying. And I'm doing this because I'm hoping that it'll give more courage for others to try and not be afraid of putting yourself out there. And as vulnerable, as scary as it can be. Because if we are going into that place with love and good intention and kindness, there's no mistakes. We're all learning. So this is my attempt at the Woolistic song. And I actually thought of, but you know what? I'm gonna really, really try. And just to show that, just to show that. Woolistic o Malaway, Haji. I'm reaching out to you. Dami, Aji Damigo, Zupe Omie, Niguas, Bimin Gwen, Aji Dech, Zupe, Niguas. Mibin wazi sich nilaska mil Woolistic is flowing, flowing and growing. Woolistic is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, for a child I'll always be. Mother, carry me, for a child I'll always be. Away, 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 away. Child, I'll always be. Sweet day. that song, and I was in my studio yesterday, and I felt, as I was, trying to learn, I felt the tears coming down my eyes, and it was not of sadness that I didn't know the song yet. It was tears of pride that I just wanted it so much. So that's been my journey, right? Resilience, and this is, for a long time, we've been keeping close to what what has survived, the teachings that they're so close to the dances, the old songs, the old stories. And we want to keep close to that. But that was a way of life. That's the way of teaching. But we're living in a different time now. So, there's a new generations here who've seen different things, who are living a different way. And we have to teach them to sing their songs that they feel, the dance that they feel, because they're teachers. They have to teach. They got to leave this path. We can't have gaps. So they feel, because I don't know these teachings, I don't know these songs, that I can't dance, I can't sing. No. The ancestors, all the teachings are inside us, and we have to give them, that open heart to express themselves. And, because I've had the support in my life, such as my uncle and my aunt here, and other people in my family, and I'd see their tears in their eyes when I tell my story or my paintings and my song, I knew just by that reaction that I was doing what I needed to do in a good way. But one thing, too, that I realized is though, we feel as though we have this constant fight with non-Indigenous people about our way of life and what we're trying to bring into, our communities, in our schools, everything, and health, everything, But what makes me sad is that, it's tiring and exhausting and sad to try to, share who we are to, non-Indigenous people and not get that support. It's tough and frustrating. But to have to fight with your own is sad. That's when you are fighting over how to write a language, how to speak a language because it's a little different. Or that, I know people do ceremonies in their own way, I respect that. But like I said, if there's good intentions, going in with respect and love, there's no reason to apologize. It's good intentions, it's good. And people do their ceremonies in different ways. Like some don't like a woman who let a woman in a big drum. One thing that really hits me is you can't come around a ceremony on your moon time. Moon time. And those type of moments was what helped, was really starting to create more songs in me. And starting to think about, my broken heart because of those stories I hear about brothers and sisters fighting with one another. A young woman being bashed because of her moon time. So this is a song I wrote for that, called Moon Time. That, that we have to honor that, that life that is in our women, that respect in one another. And the woman to not apologize for feeling the way she's feeling and giving herself that time for herself. That is her time. that's her time. And so this is me not apologizing. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah, hey, 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 yeah, yeah, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, 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 yeah, yeah, hey, 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 yeah, yeah, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, So, I wrote a play because I didn't know it was theater that I needed to do. But when I looked at my paintings, I wanted my dancers to become alive. I wanted my trees to become alive. I wanted the water to come alive. And I kept on seeing us all come together and making some really beautiful things for everyone to see. And I had an opportunity through Theatre New Brunswick to bring that, one of my stories, to life. And Finding Holistic Voice is about a young Indigenous woman who is living in a modern world, but who's awakened by her ancestors. So she goes on this journey of sharing how she's feeling with that fight, and also going back to her dream world in the past of stories. They kept on waking up, and she'd wake up with these other stories that happened in her past. And through every journey, there's a song and a dance. Through this process, I've created around 14 songs in this play. And I'm really excited about this because, you know, and it's interesting, people ask me, is it dancer or jingle just dancer? Is she a shawl dancer? I said, no, she's not. But her dance is Woolista Greek. It is. Because I seen it. I felt it. And they asked, are you going to sing these songs? Are you going to sing these? No. But the songs that I've created are Woolista Greek. And that dance that that young girl's going to dance is just as sacred as those dances we keep close to us now. And those songs that are going to be sung are just as sacred as those songs we sing now. Medicine. And I hope to hear these songs being sung in circles. And I hope for others to be inspired to bring out their dance and to bring out their songs. Because, like, I need to learn about the young ones and how they're feeling. And sometimes we can't find the words to describe that. We need to listen and give them that space to be able to express themselves in any way they can. And those teachings, that's why it's important for me to be close to my teachers, because there's so much I need to learn to keep doing the work that I'm doing today. So every time that I go out to the river, I think of my grandfather, who was a fisherman, and my grandmother. See, my grandfather was a dancer at one time, you know. My grandmother was very Catholic. I never got an opportunity to really, like, you know, them when they're here in the physical world to share the songs. But one thing, my grandfather likes the powerful ones. Get it, go up there, sing. My grandfather likes them like the hymns, the lullabies. I could feel that. Every time, the reason why I know that is because when I sing it, those hymns, those more low tones, chants that I create, I feel her. Oh. way, hey. Oh, way, hey. Hey, I think she likes those lullabies because she had 16 children. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, hey. And I like to believe that she was a chanter. Willie Wynn, Gazalmo.
Any questions? I also wanted to tell you that last year when we were doing our Red Shawl, actually 2 years ago when we started our Red Shawl campaign, she actually come up with a Red Shawl, a song for our sisters, No More Stolen Sisters, I think, yeah. And she come up with a chant for that as well. And when we were doing the ballet, one of the things we wanted to incorporate into the domestic, the ghost of violence is the Atlantic ballet that's traveled around the world and across the country. When we asked if we could partner with them, Igor agreed to incorporate some of our songs into that performance. And this year, we had the good fortune of having Natalie and the Aquin sisters come and be a part of that, so they were able to sing that song. And at the end of the show, we wanted to really send a strong message to all young girls and women, and it was amazing to hear the performance of the Strong Woman song. And I remember last year, Lori Nicholas was supposed to come and sing for us, that particular song, and she's got a strong voice like Natalie does, but she got laryngitis, so show night, she texts and says, I can't make it, I don't have a voice. I'm like, oh my goodness. So the 4 of us that were doing other things had to come up and try our best to sing it. And thank goodness the lights were down, so we couldn't see the audience going, like this. But it was the message that was important. It wasn't the song, it was the message of strong women. This year, we had 7 amazing women sing the song, and everybody that talks about that entire presentation, that entire show, they talk about the emotion that they felt in that last song sung by these 7 amazing women. So I just wanted to show you that's how song feels, like you said. It's not just our songs today. Those were songs already sung. And it's those songs that have been silenced and our women are taking abuse that they shouldn't have to take because they're not singing their songs. So what we're doing now is we're encouraging women. Like I do that for the moms. So get a birth song ready so that when your baby comes into the world, you can sing that baby's first song. And so if a baby is sung to at birth, I think that it will resist the bullying and all of that violence that's out there testing them. And so I appreciate what you do. It's like Velastuk singing, like this morning, when I told everybody, it's so difficult in our resistance and our resilience about this idea of how do we maintain our identity when where we come from has been renamed to St. John. But that's why I told everybody this morning, St. John is the middle name, Velastuk is the first name, and Samawanijajak is singing from the essence of our heritage.
So no questions?
So we have any questions? Any questions? Well, let me just grab the mic here so we can get it recorded here. There you are, sir.
You brought up an interesting question that I debated at a forestry conference with some Northern Cree from Manitoba. And the elders were getting annoyed because the young ones were changing the language. You didn't have planes back then. You didn't have computers. And on it goes. So a dead language is like Latin. You can learn all the words. English and French are living languages because they will adopt words, change the meaning of words, and change stuff. So what is your opinion on that? Because to me, nobody controls the language. It'll go where it wants to go.
That's a question for you.
Actually, that was something that that happened while we were working on a writing system for our language. As a trained linguist, we of course learned the International Phonetic Alphabet as a way to decipher all languages around the world. But when it came to the opportunity to have one unique for our language, I learned it because I wanted us to be unique. Granted, I didn't want at first to even use the orthography, the Roman orthography, because I thought it's just like English. But Rita Jo, Elder Rita Jo, the late Elder Rita Jo, Mi'kmaq woman, who was a residential school survivor, wrote a poem, "You Took My Talk." And just to shorten it, she said, "I learned your talk. Now I think like you, I create like you. I want you to learn my talk so you can think like me and create like me." And that, right off the bat, I said, you know what? I'm going to use the English orthography because our children are going to learn English in school. I'm going to use our system, and we only use 17 letters. We don't have, that's why I'm so proud of my language, because we don't have the letter F in our language. And that's I have my language class here actually today, and that's so important. So what happened is when we ask the elders things like, I would tell my students, I want you to ask your grandmothers and grandfathers, uncles and aunties. We're going to be going bowling in the language, but I want you to find out from them what the word would be for bowling, gutter, all of that. And they all came back. They said we didn't have bowling back then, so we don't have a word for it. I said, excuse me? We have a system of describing what we do. And so some of the elders were upset. They didn't want the language written because they felt if it was written, then we might lose it because it might be taken away from us. And so I had to that's when I started ceremony, because I was confounded, like, how am I going to save my language as a linguist if I'm not allowed to write it? How are we going to leave behind writings in our language? How are we going to make sure that it's going to survive? And I went to a fast. And in my fast, 1994, in Ojibwe territory in Ontario, I fasted for my language because I didn't want to disappoint my elders who were saying, don't write it, Doz. Don't write it. I went and I did ceremony. I asked ancestors, I will go without food and water for 4 days just so I can save my language. After 2 days, this prayer came to me, Willas Weltam Wagan. That means giving gratitude. And then it said, Nokmisuk Musumsuk, grandmothers and grandfathers, Wuliwan Chiwladwe Wagan. Thank you for the language, that you saved for us. Because every student that came to my class in the 20-some years I've been teaching, they would always say, I don't know my language because my grandmother didn't teach me. My mother doesn't know it. My dad, etc. So there was all these excuses, always pointing to somebody else why they didn't speak the language. This prayer says, grandmothers and grandfathers, thank you for the language you saved for us against all odds. Everything. It's now our turn to save it for the ones not yet born. So I made it a point after my fast to go to every Indigenous community, and I hugged every speaker. I went to chief and council and say, we have to celebrate our speakers while we have them. And so we actually, you know, we do a lot of that. So some of my elders were saying, we can't change the language. We like the old language over the new language. But I've been able to tell them, but we have to add words to it too. You know, so we do have words. Matter of fact, next Wednesday, we're doing a community language immersion, and the community is going bowling at Base Gagetown, and we're going to be bowling in the language. So we did come up with words on how to say gutter ball, a head walgug, and it just means gullies on each side of us, you know, a ball that rolls, you know, wooden pins that we can knock down, you know. So there's ways of doing it. So it was a challenge, but the elders are now reading in their language, and it's so exciting to watch them. I know that word, but I never knew how to spell it. I mean, to be able to speak a language and then see it, that's the real gift. And so it's exciting to be a part of that, leaving and adding to the language. We have a word for computer, as always, anytime we have a group that gets together that are teaching the language. So the first word for computer, I asked my elders in Tobic, and they said, smoke signals. And I says, yeah, but if I translate it literally from English, smoke and then signal, it's not going to mean computer. And so after some thought, we come up with Akinwetazwagan. Akinwet means information. It's somebody, you know, it's a machine that gives out information. You can put it in, and you can learn from it. So that's what we call computer. So it's been exciting. I mean, you know, even hockey. I used to do play-by-play here for campus hockey a long time ago, you know, and it was exciting. And the elders would listen on the radio. And of course, I'd get the gentle corrections. That's not how you say goalie. I said it purposely because I want your advice to teach me how to say it. So we're going to continue to add on to the language because it has to with every generation. My class, that's going to be their responsibility. Is their final assignment is using social media, you know, like I do for Twitter. I have a Uskamil, which means forever, 150. As ambassador to Canada's 150, I use that soapbox to be able to share my language to the rest of Canada, that this is how my language needs to be, why it needs to be preserved. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Okay. Was the youth that were talking amongst each other, and they were using the Cree structure to make their words. And if the youth grab anything, that's how stuff lives forever, is through your children's DNA that you gave them. And so I was very excited that it wasn't going to die, that the youth had taken it on. And that was a good discussion with my colleagues that night.
Do we have any other questions? The question, raise your hand. Okay.
Not really a question, but more of a comment. I just wanted to thank you for sharing with us today, because I really felt that you shared from your heart. And everything that you spoke, I could feel the love coming through. And that's not always easy to do, surrounded by strangers. And you were vulnerable, and I think that everyone in this room responded to that and felt a connection with you and what you had to say. So thank you for that.
Oh, Willie Wynn.
Any other questions? Comments? Observations? Suggestions? Well, Willie and Natalie, and I'm quite excited to hear more of you this evening at the Playhouse and your fellow colleagues. And ladies, pardon me? Amanda, yes, Amanda. Amanda will be there. Is she in the performance tonight? Yeah, wonderful. Looking forward to seeing you there as well, Amanda. This completes the program for the 3rd Annual Peace and Friendship Treaty. So a round of applause to all the voices that have come to our territory to share their knowledge and their perspective. We want to thank you for joining us. We certainly want to thank the University of New Brunswick and the Roux Center for hosting us. We certainly want to thank the New Brunswick Department of Post-Secondary Education, Training and Labor and the Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada. We certainly want to thank the catering folks that fed us here, that fed our spirits to continue on and learning here and sharing our knowledge. We certainly want to thank, of course, the technicians that helped us out with our presentations. And I want to thank you for taking your time to be here for the last couple of days and to engage into what is really important, not only to us folks here in Wolastoqey territory or Wabanaki territory, but all across this beautiful country of ours. And I think the messages that are being sent and being shared in centers like the Mi'kmaq and Wolastoq Center will resonate throughout, of course, Atlantic Canada and throughout the country. I'd like to thank Ian Peach for continuing to believe in our journey and supporting the conference and allowing us to be a part of that. Last but not least, I want to thank the elders. I want to thank the elder in residence, Elder Purley, our teacher, our cultural guidance, your wisdom, your teachings. You've taught me many times, and every time I hear you, I'm just happy to be around you. So well, even for that. And for the director of the Mi'kmaq Wolastoq Center, thank you for your continued advocacy on the work that you do as well. If I have forgotten you, well, even. So, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, please stand. We're going to do a closing ceremony.
So before we go our separate journeys, remember of that feather that Gord Hill was talking about, that one mind, that one promise to each other that we're going to support each other. But I'm just going to take on a guided imagery like Marilyn did this morning. If you could close our eyes just for a second and go to the back of your head and touch the back of your head where your thinking is. And let's think with one mind for what our ancestors had really, put into this sacred covenant of peace and friendship. Bring your hand to your heart, and may you embrace what our ancestors wanted the treaty to really be, and not in the misinterpretations that it has, so that we will commit to being real treaty partners and spread the word. And also to give gratitude to your family for letting you come here, and give them a big welcome back. We can open our eyes now. And thank you for all the good news that you've brought here. And hopefully you take just as much good news back to your territories. And hopefully, if not next year, the year after, I'm not sure if, what our plans are for next year. We'll wait for a creator to decide that. We'll leave when everybody safe journey, and we love you. Yeah.
Well, even ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our conference. A safe journey to your families back home. Thank you.